Yeah, hi there. This is Quick Lab GSP114. In this lab, we are going to set up continuous delivery pipelines with Spinnaker and Kubernetes engine. So let's start the lab. Okay, the Google Cloud Platform is launched and I clicked on the Activate Cloud Shell button to activate the Cloud Shell. And then I have opened it up in a separate window. Let's follow the lab instructions. gcloud auth list. Let's authorize it. Let's check whether the project is properly set up. No. Now we'll set up the zone, the default zone as US Central 1F. Now we are going to create a Kubernetes cluster with the name Spinnaker-tutorial, and it's going to use the machine of N1 standard 2 type. So gcloud container clusters create name of the cluster and the type of the machines that we want to be used when the cluster gets created. Let's wait for it. Okay, the cluster is created. We can also check it in the console. So Spinnaker-tutorial cluster is created with 3 as a node size, and it's in the US Central 1F. This is the default zone that we set. Now let's follow the next steps. We are going to set up a service account. Let's copy it and go to the Cloud Shell. Clearing the screen. So the command is gcloud iam service accounts create name of the service account and the display name of the service account. So service account got created. We are now storing the service account's email ID and the current project ID in the environment variables. Let's echo $SA underscore email. Similarly, let's save the environment variable project and we can echo just to ensure that it is having correct values. Now this is done. Now what we are going to do is bind the storage.admin role to the service account. So basically we have created the service account. Now we have to give it a role. We have to grant a role to the service account. This is done. Now download the service account key, so which we might use it in the later steps. So we are downloading the key. Setup cloud pubsub to trigger the Spinnaker pipeline. So we have to create a pubsub topic so that we can later on trigger the Spinnaker pipelines. Let's do it. So we need to create a pub topic for notifications from the container registry. Let's copy this command and execute it on the Cloud Shell. gcloud pub topics create, and using this particular from the container registry. Now we have to create subscriptions so that Spinnaker can read these notifications. Let's create that. And after that, we have to give Spinnaker service account permissions to read from the GCR triggers subscription. Let's check this task. Now we need to deploy Spinnaker using Helm. So Helm is basically a package manager which we can use to configure and deploy Kubernetes applications. So first we have to install the Helm. So using this wget command, we are going to install Helm, unzip it, and we just run the copy command. Now we are going to grant Helm the cluster admin role in the cluster. And also we are going to grant Spinnaker the cluster admin role so it can deploy resources across all the namespaces. Add the stable charts deployment to Helm's usable repositories. And now we are going to configure Spinnaker. Creating a bucket using gsutil mb command, specifying the region as US Central 1. Now we are going to run the following command to create a spinnaker-config.yaml file. So let's use the VI editor, for example. I think within this they are already specifying the cat command to create that file, so we don't have to use editor. The file is created. Spinnaker-config.yaml file. This is the one which got created. Now we have to deploy the Spinnaker chart using the Helm command line interface. Now this is done. We'll move to the we'll move to the next command, which says after the command completes, run the following command to set up the port forwarding. So let's execute this. And we are going to execute kubectl port dash forward, which will be doing the port forwarding. To open the Spinnaker user interface, click on the web preview and hit on the port 8080. So we are going to click here, web preview, and previewing the port, previewing at the port 8080. Let it come up. Yep, so Spinnaker is coming up. Let's check the task. This is done. Now we have to build the Docker image. Let's go through that. So we continue further. So we have to build the Docker image. Let's create the source code repository. Copy this. Go to the Cloud Shell. After this is done, we have to unpack the source code, the code that we copied in the previous step from bucket to locally, so that we have to unpack. Now we need to go to this directory sample-app. Let's clear the screen, check its contents. Now we are going to set up the global user.email name. Let's echo it. Okay, now we can, no need to echo, we just simply can go ahead and this is the username, okay, that we need to set up now. Git config dash dash global user dot name, and this is the name of the user. Now let's initiate the git init. We are going to do the initial commit. Going to create a repository to host your source code. So gcloud source repos create sample app. So a repository will be created with the name sample-app. So let's wait for it to complete. So repository is created. Now if we go to console, we can search for the repositories and we can see sample-app repository got created with the command. Let's move to the next command. Add your newly created repository as remote. And we are going to push code to the new repository's master branch. So we go to the source repositories. The sample app that we created, we should be able to see it, that we already saw. Now we have to configure the build triggers. So we go to navigation menu, cloud build and triggers. So under navigation menu, we see cloud build and then we click on the triggers. And then we are going to create a trigger. Click on this create trigger button and fill the details as given in the lab. Name of the trigger sample apps tag. Event is push new tag. This is the repository that we created, sample-app that we selected. For tag, we are going to give v1.star. With all the details filled, we are now going to create our trigger. Once this is done, we executed the following commands. First, we set the project. Basically, whatever the commands are given here, prepare your Kubernetes manifests for use in Spinnaker. So we first set the project variable, then we created the bucket using gsutil mb command. Then we set versioning on the bucket. We replaced the word project with the project value in the manifest under deployment directory. And then we did the commit the changes to the repository. Now we are going to build the image using git tag command. We're going to push the tags. So this is done. Now let's go to the Cloud Console and click history in the left pane to check that the build has been triggered. Okay, this is done. Now we check the task. So this is completed. We got the score also. Let's move further. So we have to configure our deployment pipeline. So for this, the next step is install the Spin CLI for managing Spinnaker. So we have to, so Spin is basically a command line utility for managing the Spinnaker's application. Let's download this CLI. We go to Cloud Shell. Yeah. So after CLI is downloaded, we just executed the command to make it change the permission to make it executable, and then we created the deployment pipeline with this command and executed this command. And finally, we are going to the Spinnaker and click on this applications, and we should see sample as our application. So let's go there on the Spinnaker. If I click on this applications, I should see sample. So click sample and click pipeline setup. So let's click samples. We clicked on this pipeline and then we started the manual execution. So once we see this yellow icon, we have to click here and we have to say continue. Okay, this has completed. As you can see, the succeeded status. Continuing with next. So we need to trigger pipeline by making the code changes. So we have made a code change using set command, done the commit, and we tagged it and again push the tags. Now let's go to the cloud build and check for the history. So once the trigger completes, then we need to go to Spinnaker UI and click on the pipelines. We should see our task progressing. Let's wait for it to complete. So the task has succeeded. Let's check the page. Okay, our score has reached 100. So I think all the tasks are done. So we can end the lab now. If you want, you can do the revert also. If so, I'm ending the lab.